Well, I was born at a party in a barn with a guitar strapped across my arm. So I learned to play in a different style.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Ashton.
Have we started? We have.
Yes. Yeah.
I was wondering whenever you were gonna say something. I was muted.
Yeah. It's on purpose, but welcome in, everybody. Joining in on the Hogs Happy Hour podcast here on the 4-Star Sports Media Network. Okay, if you're ready for the big game, score a touchdown with your ticket purchase. Use promo code 4-Star Sports Media on SeatGeek to get $20 off your first order. Don't miss out on the action. Grab your tickets today and save. I want to welcome in everybody watching on YouTube and X. Okay, as again, we're not StreamYard doesn't like our Facebook right now, so we're just on X and YouTube at the moment. Later in the show, we'll be joined by a special guest, Tyler Komis from 247 Sports. He covers the Ole Miss Rebels, so excited to get his insight. And we are joined again from the travel ball guru himself, Coach Wilson. Travel ball season's finally over with, so he can finally join us again. I think it's just because basketball season's starting up again. So he can finally be happy again.
Yeah. Well, it's good to be back. It's been a while.
Yeah. But hey, life happens though.
That's right.
Life does happen. All right, so let's go ahead and get this out the way. All right, the beatdown in Starkville. The Hogs go in to the land of the cowbells and put a beat down on those Bulldogs, 58-25. Taylor Green had probably his best game as a Hog he's had so far. The running game with the freshman Russell was amazing. Offensive line was working well. Kudus was back in that rotation. Offense was, outside of the UAPB game, this is probably the best performance that they've had. Hopefully that's a sign of things to come. But again, with these Arkansas Razorbacks, you just never know. So, Ashton, what's your thoughts on this beatdown?
I was super excited to see us start a freshman running back, especially a hometown kid from here, and to see him have success right off the bat, considering that Mississippi State had played the last couple weeks against two fairly decent teams and played them tough. No, they didn't win against Texas, but they played Texas hard. They didn't beat Georgia, but they played Georgia hard. And so I was proud to see a kid go into a stadium where all you hear is cowbells and put up 175 yards on only like 15, 16 carries. Yeah. Pretty impressive. And I think he ran out of gas on the 75-yard run, or else it probably would have been a touchdown. He pulled up as he was cramping, but I don't know if he was cramping as much as he may have been gassed.
He said he was going to pop his hamstring, so I don't know.
Okay. Well, it's tough to be conditioned for that situation, especially considering he's been, for the most part, primarily the kind of like the third feature back with occasional second feature. So I was glad to see that. And then I was also, Taylor, everything just looked like it was clicking for Taylor. I don't know if it was just Mississippi State's defense is that bad, which it very well may be just that bad.
I don't know. Mississippi State's defense, before Arkansas was kind of a just don't get beat deep type of defense. Yeah. You keep everything in front of you. But Taylor just he could do whatever he wanted,
Everything was working. Let's say that everything was working for the Razorbacks, and whether it was to the tight end or it was to, Tyrone Broden. Broden had a great game, so everything was working, and perhaps everything was working so well that you had two tight ends. Maybe decide that maybe playing in Fayetteville is not for them. I don't know the whole situation there, but
when your coach tells you to go play and you tell them no, it might,
Yeah, that's kind of a strange situation for Ty Washington because I mean I've heard the backstory on it, but I just thought it was kind of odd how he hadn't how you say it, Poshka had a great game, and then all of a sudden your coach turns around in the fourth quarter and says, "Hey, go play," and he's like, "No, I'm not in it mentally." Maybe he wasn't. I don't know. Maybe he wasn't in it mentally because of what he actually said, or maybe he wasn't in it mentally because he just saw his opportunity for playing time just go down the drain. I don't know. But I thought it was kind of odd.
I say because at that point, fourth quarter, Arkansas was way ahead. I mean, maybe he felt like he should have played early. You know, like you said, played a little bit earlier. But he's not on. There's two scholarship spots open right now at the tight end position.
Yeah. So and I've heard the story, but I don't know. I really don't know who to believe right now in that situation. So I won't really cast a whole lot of judgment on that situation because I don't know a whole lot right now. Yeah. But as it stands, we are in a situation where we've got Lucas, you've got Andrew Poshka, and then you've got you still got Easter there.
Yeah.
And then if things really got bad, I wouldn't be shocked. You could move Tyrone Broden to tight end just to see what would happen.
Well, you're missing a Southeast Arkansas kid too with Lassiter.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. And Lassiter's played. From Warren. So, and I didn't think he would play. So that's been a good surprise. So I don't have any complaints. I was kind of concerned after the loss to LSU, but it seems like that loss to LSU came off of a week where Talon was beat up and the offense just was not clicking, and it's hard to get upset whenever things weren't going our way. Yeah. And you look up, we're 5-3, Blake, and you could look up at this point last year and you could feel like Mississippi State does. You're 1-7, and I'd rather be 5-3 than 1-7. Yeah. And you're right now looking at a bowl game, or just about. You at least got to beat Louisiana Tech to be in a bowl game, and you're possibly looking at better than just a bowl game. So I was happy to see the way we played. Defense didn't look great, but defense did enough in bigger moments. Like they made the plays when they had to.
Yeah. Now I will say this about the defense. Dave Shoemate brought it up on his show. Historically, Travis Williams' defenses, once it hits November, end of October, they start to not play as well as they have. And I thought about, last year, Arkansas's defense was playing well until about this point. Then it kind of just fell apart. And he's talking about his, when he was at Central Florida, as a kind of the same pattern. So I'm hoping that's not the case because, heck, a few weeks ago we were wanting him to be the next head coach, but his defense does need to play better. Got a juggernaut of a team coming in,
right?
In Ole Miss, but I mean our secondary is playing okay. They're moving Hudson Clark back to corner. I think Pittman made that clear in his press conference Monday.
Okay,
they feel like that's more of his where they need him right now is at corner. But I mean he. If you remember a couple years ago, Hudson Clark had that three-pick game against Ole Miss.
So yes, I do. I remember.
He does. I mean, he does play well against Ole Miss. But just gonna go over some stats real quick from this Mississippi State game. Taylor Green was 23 of 29 for 314 yards, 5 touchdowns in the air. He had one sick running touchdown where he broke that guy's ankles. Yeah.
Gosh, that was impressive, man.
Yeah.
That was.
And that's kind of what you get with Taylor. Like you're going to get those type of plays, but you're also going to get the, he did throw one interception. I mean, I think at this point in the year, we know Taylor's going to fumble or throw a pick at some point.
Yeah. And we've accepted it.
Coach. Yeah. You're a baseball coach. The guy's going to strike out 5 times, but he's also hit a home run twice, That's
Right,
kind of
right.
how his comparison
And
is.
that's a fair comparison, Blake. I think that's the right way to look at it.
Yep. And then on the ground, we rushed for 359 yards. That is quite impressive as a team. 9.7 yards a carry, led by Braylon Russell, 16 carries, 175. Ooh, my kids got me. Can't talk today. 16 carries, 175 yards. Russell had almost 11 yards per carry. That's I know he's a freshman, and I know Mississippi State's not that good, but 11 yards
Dude,
per
that's
carry is
pretty dang good.
great.
Pretty dang
Yep.
good.
Yep. So, and I'm happy he's a Hog. When during his whole recruiting cycle, he was a Hog, and then he was thinking about going to Tennessee, I think it was,
Mm-hmm.
and he finally ended up back with the Hogs.
Right.
I think he made a great decision.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, clearly, it goes out and beats Tennessee. So
Yeah. And then receiving, led by Andrew Armstrong, 4 catches, 76 yards. And then Luke has had 4 catches for 59 yards. So it was a great offensive showing. Now, I mean, we're not going to harp too much on Mississippi State because Arkansas has been in their shoes where they just can't, nothing goes right.
right.
Those fourth down plays, those reviews that really could have went either way. Arkansas fans have been there. I mean, I haven't seen too many Arkansas fans be like showboating or bragging about beating Mississippi State.
No. In fact, as far as Razorback fans have gone here lately, I think most Razorback fans have kept their mouth shut about the success. I say success, 5-3. There's a lot of teams who would not accept 5-3.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but 5-3 for us, I think people need to understand something about Razorback fans is you can give us 5-3 and just show that we can be competitive. We'll shut our mouths most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Here we are at 5-3, and of all people, I'm the biggest critic of especially football.
Yeah.
And here I am going, man, I'm content with where we're at because we've competed. Did we lose to a team like Oklahoma State early in the season who now looking back is probably not a great loss? Sure, but at the time, you're a top 10 team, top 15, something like that. Your second loss was to A&M. Now look at A&M. And then your third loss was to LSU. And then just up till this last week, LSU and A&M were battling for the number 1 spot in the SEC. So it's hard to say that we've been unsuccessful this season, considering where we were at last year at this point. So, and it goes that way in all sports in Fayetteville. Is if you can show that you can compete, most Fayetteville or most Arkansas fans will just keep their mouth shut.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the Fire Pittman crowd is kind of quieting down just a little bit, but
yeah,
I'm torn on. It was on the Chuck and Bo show this week, and Chuck was like, you got a coach in Sam Pittman who wants to be here.
Right.
He likes Arkansas. He's from Oklahoma, but he grew up pretty close to Arkansas. So you got a guy that kind of understands the culture here. So, but all right. Anyways,
sorry. I think in time,
go ahead.
What you're looking to do is, I think personally, I would love to see Bobby Petrino remain as the offensive coordinator until he retires. I don't know if I like him as the head coach or not, but I like to see him be the OC. He likes Arkansas. It's a good fit. He's wanted to be here for a while. Maybe a higher head coach that lets Bobby Petrino do his thing. I don't know. Just thinking into the future. I don't know what happens.
Yeah.
So, anyways.
Yeah, and who knows after this weekend in the Fire Pittman crowd maybe.
Yeah, very much so. Could happen.
Especially the guy sitting over here, with you.
Yeah.
Hey, you still got to eat some crow from Tennessee. All right,
I do. I do. I
Yeah.
had a bib and everything. I was wearing it, and boy, I was eating it in big bites. And yeah, I couldn't even watch the last play. I couldn't. I could hear. I had my door open to my on my house, and my neighbors across the street. I could hear. I was listening to see what their reaction would be to the last play to know whether or not I could celebrate or cry. So when I heard them lose their minds, I was pumped. So for whatever reason, Arkansas plays good when I don't watch them. So
well, maybe
superstition.
Yeah. All right. Well, we got a special guest about to join us here, Tyler Komis from 247 Sports, 24/7 Sports. However you want to say it. But we appreciate you joining us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. Can you guys hear me all right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're good. All right, awesome. Ashton, you want to start it off?
Yeah. Hey, so I've been, Arkansas fans kind of have their feelings about Lane Kiffin. You either love Lane or you just absolutely hate the guy. There's really no in between for Lane. So my question, and really just kind of get your thoughts, pick your brain a little bit, as an Ole Miss fan or someone who follows Ole Miss football, where would you say, as success-wise, has Lane been what people would call successful in Oxford at this point of the year for football, or were they expecting more? What's the feeling there in Oxford right now?
Yeah, I'd say definitely a great question. Kind of tricky for this year, but I'd say overall the past 5 years, yeah, he's been just about. I think he's exceeded a little bit of expectations. The transfer portal's definitely helped with that, of course. And he said it after the LSU game that he's kind of changed the expectations around Oxford, where they go to Baton Rouge in the past, they're just hoping to play them close or just not to totally get embarrassed, I guess. And this year they lose a close one in a game they really should have had in overtime, and fans are disappointed, and that, and really heated. Some call him for his job even, which I think is definitely a little bit extreme. But as far as this year goes, I think it's fair to say this team's underachieving considering how they were built up to be, both from external and internal expectations. And he kind of had an interesting response to one of the reporters last week that mentioned that they were bowl eligible after their 6th win over Oklahoma last weekend. And it kind of riled up the fan base because he said that reporter was probably the only person in town to bring that up and maybe make it a positive, where everyone else is kind of championship or bust. I think that's probably extreme, but definitely going into the year, it was playoffs or bust.
Yeah, I go back to, I think about what Deion Sanders was asked the other day. Deion, I think a reporter even said that to Deion, I think, was, you're bowl eligible. And I think Deion's response was an appropriate response. Like, we're not looking to just be bowl eligible. We want to do much more than just be bowl eligible. When you're an Arkansas fan, listen, when you're an Arkansas fan, you say things like, we're bowl eligible. Okay. And especially with football. You don't, now with basketball or maybe baseball, you don't say, well, okay, we just made it to the tournament. Baseball and basketball are a little different, but when it comes to football in Arkansas, it's so much different. And so for that reporter to say they're in Ole Miss, well, you're bowl eligible. Yeah, the fan base, I think you're right. I've been thinking about that, is the fan base had this, probably had this perspective that this team's going to compete for a national championship. And you know what? I thought they were going to compete. Now they may still. But as well as I do, in the SEC, they got, 6 weeks left? Is that right? No, 4 weeks left? You got to win.
That's right.
All 4 of those games?
100%.
Yeah.
Ole Miss has to win out, and they got a pretty tough challenge this weekend, obviously, and they're definitely not overlooking the Razorbacks, place they haven't won since 2008, I believe. Loss here is a kiss of death for them and their postseason hopes. And who knows how the locker room would even turn out with a loss with the rest of the way to go. I mean, I think a lot of business decisions would probably be made with another loss.
Hey, I just can't even imagine. Can't even imagine how things would be if that's the case. All right, Blake. Well, I've said all I need to say, and he really kind of gave me the answer I thought. So, your turn.
I mean, heck, we would Arkansas fans, me and him, when the hiring process was going on, me and him wanted Lane, but you,
We
your check
did. I
gets
mean,
look over the
I
money.
admit it. Whatever. I
They
admit
were
it.
they were hired the same year, correct?
Yep.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And the Pittman versus Kiffin battle each year it's been exciting football. No matter how bad Arkansas has been, last
And
year it was a good
I
battle.
think
Yeah.
I think also like there's a major disparity. I think, and there always is. It seems like Arkansas talent from other schools. When you bring in the number one transfer class from the portal, and then you've got a recruiting class of high school kids coming in that are highly touted kids. You would think the fan base, I think, rightly deserves to think this, that you shouldn't be having close games with Arkansas when on paper you shouldn't. And for whatever reason, it's been consistently close every year. And
Yeah.
and it's not because we are just that much better at coaching. I think Arkansas fan base would tell you that when it comes to coaching, we're going to get out coached at least 75% of the time. Especially we're talking about a former. He goes from an offensive line position to straight into the head coaching position, where Lane has had the experience. And so for them, if they come in this weekend and Arkansas beats them in a year where Ole Miss fans were like national championship or bust, that would really be damaging to now I don't know if it'd be damaging to the point of being fired or going a different route, but it would be very damaging to the confidence I think that people have in Lane moving forward. So
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree more with that. They you said it, they brought in the number one transfer portal class, pretty decent high school class, but they also returned a lot of NFL caliber guys that you guys are going to see on Sundays. So yeah, anything short of a win this weekend, I wouldn't say his job's necessarily on the line.
right.
But yeah, you aren't going to have people calling for a raise or anything like that. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So give us a breakdown of the Ole Miss offense. To me, just looking at it and watching them, the offense is not the strength this year. I think that defense is awesome. Of course, Chris Pooh Paul's over there, former Razorback, but yeah, I think that defense is playing lights out right now.
Yeah, they are. No doubt about it. This offense is it's kind of weird to say for a Lane Kiffin team, especially in Oxford, for a team that usually puts up over 50 touchdowns a year, just not really on that pace right now. And if they are, it's because of their cupcake preseason schedule. Those first four games that didn't really prepare them for SEC play, as you guys saw as soon as week 5. But yeah, offensively, they haven't scored 30 points yet in conference game. Jackson Dart has some serious questions, I think, to answer on the road. It's not really his strength. Um, and the offensive line, there's a lot of questions up front, too. I think you could argue that I'd say Ole Miss's offensive line was maybe barely above average last year when healthy. Now, injuries might have played a role in some deficiencies last year, as they have this year as well. But I mean, they went through the portal to bolster that area too, and their kind of philosophy this year, which was definitely different in years past, was to have 8 or 9 playable guys. Which I mean, yeah, I'd say that's still probably the case. I'd say probably 6 of them play or were playing. They were rotating a lot more through the first 4 games, but I think the offensive line, I think that's a unit you really got to. I don't know if rotating throughout games is really maybe the smartest thing, because I think those 5 guys, it's supposed to be one cohesive unit, and it really just hasn't been that. They shuffled a lot of things last week. The right tackle, who's Micah Pettis, who is starting the first 7 games of the season, didn't play a snap last week. So that was interesting, and they played a little. I mean, they had a good game against South Carolina, 1 sack last week as well. So I guess they're starting to turn the page there a little bit more, but they're definitely beatable. I think it's definitely the most questionable part of the offense. I mean, the skill sets there, especially on the outside and tight ends, and another position there question marks around for sure has been running back this year. They've given a lot of touches to Henry Parrish Jr., who's Definitely a good running back. I think he's SEC caliber for sure. I just don't know if he's really in that kind of Quinshon Judkins role that he's kind of been given a little bit. Ulysses Bentley, one of their returners from last year, I think he was the highest graded SEC running back. He's been really shelved this year up until that LSU game. 5 carries last week, not much noise there. But he's been promoted to second string. So that's a step up from where he was at third string. Not really sure what happened there, but um, and I'm not claiming to know more than the coaches, of course, but I think it was pretty obvious that he was arguably their best back, and that's a decision that might come back to haunt them and be talked about for a while, if depending on how these rest of the games shape out. So offensively, they're still really searching for their identity. Trey Harris, he's dealing with a lower body injury. He's questionable. We'll see if his status changes in about an hour. Um, I'm not too optimistic it will. I'm starting to lean on the side they'll be without him this weekend, but you never know. So yeah, definitely a lot of things to figure out. But if they can get a balanced attack this week, I think they have a good chance at maybe scoring 30 points for the first time in conference play.
Yeah, I've seen they scored, I guess, 39 offensive touchdowns this year. So in 8 games, I guess you're averaging just slightly under 5 offensive touchdowns a game. I mean, the offense isn't. I won't say the offense is bad, but
No.
I think the big thing is there's no. I don't think there's been a whole lot of consistency at running back, and that does matter when you don't know who to go to or who to lean on in a game, especially in a close game. Like, you've got to kill some time. You got to be able to turn around and hand it to somebody who can get you a first down. And Parrish, I think, has been primarily the guy so far. But I think everybody, and you just said, I think everybody thought Bentley would be the guy. Maybe he will be by the end of the season. Who knows? But he hasn't been consistently, obviously, up to this point. But that's what everybody thought. And I thought
Yeah.
that's what I thought was going to happen
Yeah,
myself.
100%. And I mean, there's something behind closed doors that must have happened because, uh, yeah, I don't know more than the coaches, but I thought it was pretty obvious that he was one of the best backs on the team, arguably the best back on the team. And it's kind of interesting because, I mean, we last saw a practice back in August. So Lane cuts off practice access pretty early. And there was nothing that would indicate that Bentley would have been demoted to third string like he was. Because, I mean, he was running with the ones. I mean, looked just as fast, uh, looked a little more motivated this year, kind of being the guy, stepping out of Quinshon Judkins' shadow a little bit. So, I mean, I think something's going to come out after the season. It's going to be interesting. But it seems like if it was a doghouse thing, he seems to be out of it at this point.
Yeah. And I guess if you remove Trey Harris from the equation, obviously, you're talking about his dark struggles, and I think me and Blake could kind of, we talk back and forth every week about games. Like, are you watching this game? Are you watching that game? Look what's happening over here. And when Trey Harris is removed from the equation, it's like Dart's numbers really decrease. Who does he throw to? I guess Wells is really your next option. Is Wells the South Carolina transfer?
He is. That's
Okay.
correct.
And see, I remember watching Wells, and Wells felt like he was a pretty good receiver, but he's not Trey Harris.
No, not at all. And yeah, you would think Juice Wells would be the next guy, but honestly, ever since SEC play started, he's kind of faded out. He started his Ole Miss career scoring a touchdown in the first 4 games. So that was an impressive streak. I'd say the next guy is Caden Lee. Sophomore has kind of emerged out of almost nowhere. But you got so many options with Juice, like you said, Jordan Watkins, Caden Lee. Lately, it's been Prescorn. Last week, he led the team in receiving yards. And that's another thing with this offense. They the whole year really haven't gotten the tight ends involved, and that seems to be something that held them back. And Kiffin was always asked about it because, I mean, Prescorn is one of the best tight ends in the country, despite what the stats say. And he was kind of just saying, like, do we really want to take the ball or get less targets away from a guy like Trey Harris, who's probably the best receiver in the country? Probably not, but I think Dart early on probably leaned on him a little bit too much. As you can see by his usage, it's through the roof. Um, but now with him out, I mean, you're kind of forced to spread that ball a little bit. They were pressured to get the tight ends involved, and they did last week. I think that's going to be something they're going to need to replicate moving forward in order to have success.
All right, let's flip it over to the defense. What level of the defense do you think is the strength of this Ole Miss defense?
Yeah, certainly the front seven. If I really had to detail, definitely the defensive line, headlined by Walter Nolan, J.J. Pegues, Jared Ivey, and Princely Umon Millen. Nolan and Princely have been everything those guys could have imagined. They've been as advertised when healthy. They've had some injuries here and there, but they're both going to play this weekend, it looks like. So, I mean, those guys have been really anchoring it down. Chris Paul, arguably, honestly, the heart and soul of this defense. That guy run. I mean, his pursuit is, end-to-end speed. He's a headhunter out there, and it's impressive to watch. It seems like definitely tackling pursuit is kind of more his strength. Even though coverage he's all right, but definitely doesn't stand out as much as that. And then you got the secondary that kind of had some penalty issues through the first quarter of the season, but they've kind of cleaned that up, and they benefit from a really strong defensive front that doesn't make them have to cover for very long. So by far that defensive front.
Yeah, I kind of wondered if if Talon has time in the pocket, Talon's really good. I think if Talon has time in the pocket. Also, I don't know. Arkansas fans, we don't know if we'd like to have Talon in the pocket or Talon outside of the pocket.
I mean, I like them. Those plays that go crazy. I mean, he goes 20 yards behind the line of scrimmage and throws it to the tight end. I mean, it's just I like those plays better.
I mean, I like it, but it makes me nervous. But I mean, we like the result.
Yeah.
What we'd like to see was what we saw last week. Was that for the first time all year long, we saw it seemed like it was a different throwing slot for Talon. It was more consistent. The ball looked better coming out of his hand, and he looked comfortable. It was the first time I thought all year that he looked legitimately comfortable in the offense. And I'm hoping, of course, Razorback fans are hoping that translates to this week against Ole Miss, thankfully at home. To back-to-back games. I don't think we've had back-to-back games where Talon has looked good in back-to-back games. He is notorious, and you know this. You've done enough study on it, I'm sure. Notorious. He's going to turn the ball over at some point. The question is if he turns the ball over, is it going to be on our 2-yard line or is it going to be on the other team's 2-yard line? See, we have a problem with that in Fayetteville, is giving the ball to the other team and putting defense in a bad position. Hopefully for us, Talon shows up and is the same quarterback that he was last week, and he has time in the pocket. To say that Arkansas has improved tremendously, the one place, obviously, that we have improved this year, and Blake will tell you, number one spot is that offensive line. That offensive line was so bad last year that no quarterback could have survived back there. I don't care who you were. You could have been Talon Green and still not have survived.
I was going to say, what about him?
Yeah, no, it wouldn't have mattered. Much different unit this year, much different coach, and just I don't know. We have been a lot more consistent. Now, will we give up sacks? Yeah, we're going to give up sacks, and primarily most of the time it's going to come through the A and B gap. Most of the time it's not going to be from the tackles. We have 2 really good tackles, but the guards every now and then. So if there's pressure this weekend, I would expect the pressure to come from the middle. Pegues to get up the middle. What can the guy not do?
Yeah.
If he's not scoring rushing touchdowns, he's getting sacks. The guy can do it all. So I think it's going to be a really good game this weekend. It has been for the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
So
So, all right, before we get you, I'm going to ask you. Well, I have one question now. I don't want you to get mad at us. All right, I was asked to ask this question.
Yes, please.
Over under on fake injuries.
Over under on fake injury. I'm gonna say 7, 6.5 to 7, depending on how the game goes. Yeah, everything's on the line this week. They're gonna be whipping out all the gadgets if they're not liking how that offense is flowing.
Here's the thing. I don't like Lane. He's just playing within the rules. Like that's what he's doing. I mean, you can say it's unethical or whatever, but he's just. I mean, it's not in the rule book to not do it. You know. So I mean, I can't.
I think change is coming. Change is coming for sure. Yeah. But Blake is right. Hey, listen, Alabama did it.
Coaches.
You know, you've got to seize every advantage you can, and like I said, coaching high school ball, even down to junior high ball, man. Let me tell you, if you knew you were about to get your butt kicked, we were going to hold the ball till there was 1 second on the clock, and we were going to run 4 plays, knowing we weren't going to get a first down with 1 second on the clock every time. And you know what? You don't have to like it, but you're going to try to give yourself an advantage. So. Right. I don't even think Ole Miss fans like it all that much, but
yeah, that's right. I don't think it's very popular. At least, just as the game goes, maybe it's disrespectful. Some would think, but it is within the rules, and they're going to try to find every advantage. Lane's going to do that. But yeah, I definitely, I'm surprised they're not kind of making an in-season change with how obvious some of it is. I mean, you got even on the offensive side of the ball, you got Dark. Yeah. Telling one of the running backs to go down, which is kind of crazy because usually you see that on the defensive side of the ball where they're trying to slow up the offense. But next year, I'd like to see that change. And maybe, if a player goes down like that, you're out for the series or maybe till there's a first down or something like that. I think that's more than reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe stop that.
Yeah, I agree. Well, hey, man, I was checking out some of your stuff. I really like what you're doing over there at Ole Miss. You're very objective, not subjective, but objective about what you have to say, what you do. Hey, and that's what we try to be the same way with Arkansas. We don't try to sell people stuff that isn't necessarily true. So I like what you're doing over there, and we both appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Can we get final score prediction? What are you guys thinking? I think it's going to be a little bit closer.
All right, I already got one. I'm going Ole Miss 31, Arkansas 28.
Okay.
Ole Miss gets the 3-point victory. Which
I'm gonna say
that means Arkansas covers.
I'm gonna say Ole Miss 35, Arkansas 28.
Yeah,
I like it. I'm gonna go off the spread here. I think Ole Miss doesn't score 30. I think their offensive struggles kind of continue a little bit. Maybe not struggles, but I'm going to say 27-17, but I think that comes in maybe I don't want to say garbage time, but yeah, there's no better word for it. Maybe a garbage time field goal or score like that. But definitely a close game. I see it. Ole Miss fans are ready to call their cardiologist. I think they're preparing for a close one too.
Yeah. Should be a good one. 11 o'clock kickoff. I think it's right after game day. So should be a good one. Tyler, we appreciate you coming on, and hopefully in the future we can do this again.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you guys for having me on, man.
All right, man. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir. You guys take care.
All right, you do the same.
Okay. All right, that's good stuff from Tyler Komis, 24/7 Sports. So. Again, I mean, it's gonna be a good one. It always is. I mean, with Pittman and Kiffin for some reason, and Kiffin, he hasn't won in Fayetteville, so.
Right. I mean, here I am again. I'm picking against the Hogs. That's not to say I wouldn't be shocked if the Hogs went out there and won. There's been times where I picked against the Hogs, and there was just no way they're going to win the game.
Yeah.
This time, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, we've played a lot better. And I think the Arkansas offense is on a high right now. Hopefully they can keep it rolling. But, man, I think he gives some real good insight into not just the football program, but the fan base as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
To what everybody's thinking is everybody was thinking national championship from day one. And when you look up and you're 6-2, and you have to win 4 games to even be in the conversation. You lose one of the next 4 games, you're out.
Yeah.
So
and it's not a easy 4 games either.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, but also they have one of the top NIL collectives right now in the SEC. That was based off of, hey, we got a really good football team. And I just wonder how much of that NIL money might not be coming in after this season. But
just don't know. Just don't know.
You don't know. All right, so again, 11 o'clock kickoff should be a good one. Hopefully, it's a good one. If not, you get to enjoy the rest of your day. Not worried about Arkansas football. I just worry because we haven't really put back-to-back conference wins together. So that's just what I worry about.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, let's switch it over to basketball, which is Ashton's favorite sport right now, or it used to be. It might be football, or I don't know what it is, but had a little charity event last Friday night. It was a great atmosphere. Just watching it on TV. Kansas come to town, and Kansas, from the get-go, wasn't too competitive. You can say they had some injuries, but Arkansas had injuries as well. Coach Cal's team just looked like the better basketball team, and that's with Kansas returning some studs, some guards, some really good guards, and Coach Self said, this is probably the best guards he will play this year, regarding Arkansas's guards. So, what's your thoughts on? For one, seeing Coach Cal on the sideline, and two,
it was different. Yeah, it was definitely different. But I think Coach Cal has surprised a lot of people to have to rebuild a team that went from basically no roster, unless you want to say Lawson Blake or Trevon Brazile were there last year. He basically built a roster from square one, ground up, and what I saw was against Kansas, they looked like they played together for a long time. And that's not what I was expecting, Blake. What I was expecting was a team that you would have good athletes, but was going to struggle to gel. Boy, they shared the basketball. They shared the basketball. They crashed the boards. Big Z is a difference maker. He runs the floor for a big man. And then, there's role players. Like, I noticed we had role players. Like, Billy Richmond is a 5-star athlete, and he's a role player. Man, he's going to go crash the boards and get to the ball. And I thought we had a comment for a second.
No.
Oh, thank you, guys. Oh, yeah. No, Tyler, appreciate you for being on. Yeah, for real. Appreciate you coming in and joining us. Good, and good luck to Ole Miss the rest of the season, except for this weekend.
Yeah.
Except for this weekend. But no, basketball. Billy Richmond looked good. Golly, we might have the best guards. I don't know. I couldn't even imagine a team like DeJuan Harris looked slow. Boogie Flan, I can't believe that guy is a true freshman. That was unreal.
Dominate.
How he handles the ball. He had 7 steals, 6 steals, 7 steals. Insane. Insane. Yes, I know it's an exhibition game, but my gosh, we looked like we were
basketball.
hungry.
And that's with without one of our best players, or potentially one of our best players.
I was impressed. Yeah, Jonas Adu. Of course, they didn't have Hunter Dickinson, but let's say Hunter Dickinson goes out there and scores 15 points, they still lose the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
you know what I mean.
Going back to Big Z, shoot, if he can consistently make that 3, oh man, watch. He had a couple assists too. He's not just. He's like a big guard kind of. He's what Connor Vanover wanted to be. That's
yeah. But he has good vision.
Yeah.
He is not selfish. He knows when. Okay, and Coach Cal told him, "I want you. If you're going to come to Arkansas, I want you to be the big man that you wanted to be. That I wanted you to be at Kentucky. Like, don't come here trying to shoot 3-pointers every possession. Like, that's not what you're here for. You're here to play on the inside." And boy, I mean, 15, 16 points, got to the free throw line, changed the trajectory of a lot of shots on the inside. I mean, he did his job. He filled the stat sheet up. That's what he's there to do.
Yeah.
Fill the stat sheet up.
Yeah.
So
And I think Brazil's going to do well, but Brazil, he's got to get used to Coach Cal, because Coach Cal was coaching him up. He's like, hey, you've got to shoot that. There were certain plays he would pass it off, and Coach Cal was like, you got to shoot. You've got to shoot it. You're a pretty good shooter. But the only downfall to this is, which he's coming off an injury, is John L. Transfer from one of them Florida schools.
yeah, FAU.
FAU, yeah. So, hey, I mean, he didn't look great, but he is coming off an injury, and and if he's the ninth man off the bench, then so be it.
Yeah, he didn't look great. Whatever, it is what it is. But although he didn't look great, I will say this: he played hard. Mm-hmm. It's not like, okay, I'm not scoring 20 points tonight, I'm just not going to play. I'm not going to play defense. He played defense. The shot wasn't falling for him, but let's be real, the guy's shot is a pretty good shot. It's going to fall eventually, and when he's on one night, you're going to have three guards who at any point in time could put up 60 points on them by themselves. So I'm not worried. I'm not worried at all about him.
We're going to find out what this team's made of in this non-conference schedule, because it's tough. Now they play tomorrow night. It's not on any kind of TV, no streaming, just radio. They play TCU down in Texas. So you can listen to Chuck on the radio for that. I'm sure there'll be some highlights somewhere. Hopefully there's highlights. They may have a dud of a game, but you just never know.
Is Jamie Dixon the head coach at TCU still?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
they'll probably play a slower style of basketball.
Yeah. Let me look them up real quick. But yeah, I think it just proves though that when Bud Walton is rocking like it was, it's going to be hard to win there.
Yeah, you're right. It is. It's going to be tough, and with Jamie Dixon, he was the head coach at Pitt for quite a while, I think. And like I said, the slower style of play. Arkansas likes to get up and down the court. And, boy, did they get up and down the court at Bud Walton. And that's what they're going to want to do. They're going to want to attack. And I was just, like I said, I was happy to see them moving the basketball. And Cal, I liked the way they did it for both coaches, to hear what they had to say, what the thought process was. For these people, I'm going to defend Coach Cal because he was a former Kentucky guy. To say Coach Cal doesn't coach. What do you mean Coach Cal doesn't coach? He was coaching. Yeah. Now, coaching is one thing and kids don't perform is another. Or maybe you got out-coached. Maybe the game plan wasn't good. Okay, fine. Sure, that's on you. But to say he doesn't coach at all, like I couldn't help myself, but like Eric Musselman. I don't ever worry or think about what Eric Musselman is doing now. I don't know. I don't care how many games he wins. I hope he has success at USC, whatever. But I'm pretty sure Arkansas and Coach Cal live rent-free in every Kentucky fan's head. Like, if you go look at the boards, everybody has always saying something about Coach Cal or Arkansas. Like, do you really care? He's gone. I thought y'all were excited about him being gone. Like, why can't we just leave it alone and be happy you got Pope? But Arkansas fans, I don't ever read or see anything about them wishing ill will towards Eric Musselman at USC. Like, we don't care. We cared for like a week, and then that was it. We were done. We were over it and done with it. So, Cal coaches. Now, is he as over the top and as young and as spry as some of these other coaches? No. Is he going to rip his shirt off like Musselman? No. He's just not. And he's a different style of coach, and there's not very many left like him, to be completely honest. Kids love him. Kids go play for him. All right. I mean, doesn't necessarily mean he wins a national championship every year. He's won one, I think. Maybe two. Maybe I think it's just one, though. But he's won more national championships than probably 90% of other coaches in college basketball. I don't care when he did it. I don't care if he did it in 1910. He won a national championship.
Yeah.
That's more than Eric Musselman could say.
And he's an active Hall of Famer.
Yeah. I mean, of course. Yeah. That's more than a lot of coaches could say, but that doesn't make those other coaches not good coaches. You know what I'm saying? Just because you haven't won a national championship doesn't mean you're no good at coaching. And just because you haven't won a national championship 10 years since your last one or 15 years since your last one doesn't mean you're not a good coach anymore. You know what I mean? Yeah. People just have these strange standards. And most of these people who have these standards, Blake, they're sitting at home like me and you watching these things. Now, I can say what I want to say, but it doesn't change facts. So I just hope we have a strong showing this year. I expect us to get even better over the next couple of years. But to think where we're at right now already after watching that Kansas game as an exhibition game, I'm excited. And you can't help yourself but be excited. So,
and this is going to show you what a good NIL program can do, like, because Cal can basically get anybody he wants.
I agree, man.
So, they play TCU, then Lipscomb, I think, in a couple weeks or maybe next week. Not real sure because of still on football mode right now, but it's it's what 4 or 5 weeks away. It's gonna be feast week. That's a good time for a sports fan. Get full of some Thanksgiving food and check out some basketball. But all right, now I want to touch on this Ty Washington thing real quick.
Okay.
Won't take too long. So he's on the 4th and 5 podcast with DJ Williams, which it's if you haven't listened to it, go. But he basically said that his grandma was put in hospice care like the Friday or the morning of the game, and he wasn't there mentally. And then in the fourth quarter, coach told him to go in. He said no, and then Monday he set up a meeting with Coach Pittman, and Pittman according to Ty Washington, Pittman didn't really let him speak. Pittman said, "I'd just be quiet and listen," and he said, "You've always complained and all that." And Washington claims he's never complained, and there's some other rumors about Washington out there that I won't say, but if they're true, there's no reason why he's on the team. The rumor is he's been flipping his NIL money. So now the one that Gums is weird. Like, all right, I get the Washington thing. He told Coach no, but Gums, he showed up on the injury report Friday, like out of nowhere, and so I don't know what's happened with him. He's also off the team. I'm sure it has to do with playing time, but he's kind of a weird cat, anyways. Remember him from North Texas, and then he decommitted and committed to Arizona State, some West Coast team. And then decommitted again and committed back to Arkansas. So I just don't think he knows where he wants to play. But regarding Washington, DJ Williams basically told him, "Bro, you can't say no to the coach. Like what did you expect out of this?" And DJ asked him, later on if him and Pittman do sit down, and would you consider coming back? And basically he said, "Me and Pittman are probably not going to talk again." So I think it's throughout the years. Like, we know Pittman well enough. He's not going to just kick somebody off for any reason. So I'm sure it's been piling up.
Yeah, I thought about that, and you're probably right. So
hey, look,
don't know yet.
You got a fan out there, Ashton. Said, well, what do we have here? Ashton's back in the house.
Yeah.
Looking forward.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, hopefully it's going to be. Last week was kind of boring a little bit. There's several teams were idle.
Yeah.
And right off the bat, the question is Drew Aller going to play against Ohio State this weekend?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
And,
what is James Franklin going to get over the hump? And and if he does,
I don't know.
Ohio State fans, are they calling for Ryan Day's head? Who knows?
I mean, yeah, it. In the SEC, it's kind of a chill weekend, but outside of the SEC, there's a lot of question marks that will be answered.
Right.
And Indiana, they shout out to Indiana. They haven't trailed. All right, I want you to realize tomorrow's November. They haven't trailed in a game all year.
Isn't that crazy? That's insane.
I don't care who you play. Like you could play UAPB and they get the ball first and go down, kick a field goal.
Right.
Like they haven't trailed in a game. It's insane. No one would have thought this.
That's absurd. Just absurd. Oh.
But yeah. And then let's see. I'm gonna look at the SEC schedule real quick. And it's not. I mean, Ole Miss, Arkansas is probably the best one of this weekend. So, I mean, you got Florida and Georgia, but that's the other big game. But yeah, so SEC schedule makers, you messed up putting Arkansas at 11:00, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
So, anything else, Ashton, before we get off here?
No, man, it was good to be back. It's been a while, but I thought it was a really good show and appreciate Tyler.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler for coming on and joining us tonight.
Yeah.
Hopefully, looking forward to a good football game this weekend, and follow the Razorbacks tomorrow night on radio against TCU.
Yep. And then the real season will start here pretty soon. So, anyways, thanks for watching. See y'all next week.
All right, brother. See you.